waiting to go on our look and see trip, which was rescheduled from the first one to be today, back when Justin had moved. I had not moved yet. I had a tentative move date depending on, approvals and all that stuff. And it ended up working out. So we are waiting for that.
So actually, what we were going on was just a tour of the city, which typically is offered on look-and-see trips, but because of the pandemic, we weren't actually offered a look-and-see.
And I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, he's just talking.
Per usual.
Yeah. What happened was we ended up just moving here. The focus today was just seeing the different parts of the city and trying to understand the different neighborhoods so that when they started offering more apartments, we would actually know where they were and could actually get a feel for each of these areas so that we knew which ones to approve or not approve to visit.
Let's get this started. So the first place that they took us was a rundown mall.
So the neighborhood was fine, it's nice, and we actually know people who live in the neighborhood, but the mall, I think it changed the purpose. It went from being a shopping mall to more of an events mall.
Yeah, so it's not actually run down at all, and I'm lying. But it's called Entree, and I guess now it has bowling and cinemas and whatever a kid zone is. Cinemas.
What are you, British?
I'm British. Well, we live in Europe now. Okay, and the next neighborhood area of town they took us to was called Kirseberg.
Probably just Kirseberg.
Yeah, it's on screen.
Kirseberg.
But they said that this area was traditional style Swedish homes and a slow-paced area of town.
It really is so cute. When you're driving down these streets, it looks like a little fairy tale. All the houses are so tiny, and it looks like they have low ceilings, and I don't know, it just felt super magical driving around there. Also, the streets were tiny because you can tell they weren't meant for cars, so it was barely a one-way street.
They also mentioned that they rarely go on sale because the houses usually stay within the family. So I guess that was more just to show us the area of town and be like, you probably won't live here.
But there's apartments nearby, and it is quiet and residential, so that was kind of the point, because, showing some features which are fun, but then the neighboring apartment blocks as well.
That's true. The next area they took us to, they prefaced it by being like, oh, so this area of town, Kirseberg, is really expensive, but it used to not always be that way.
It used to not be as popular a place to live.
Yeah. And then they asked us if we knew the reason why, and I had no idea why. But did you know why?
I had no idea.
So then there was the whole big reveal of the building, and they told us that it was a prison up until very recently. Apparently it closed in 2015, per our guides. Then it got bought up by one of the big housing companies, and it's being turned into some kind of housing. Their guess was student housing because the university nearby just got university status, and then so now it's more popular, so there's a higher demand for student housing. And then just the last place they showed us in this area was just more houses, but these have gardens and stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, and they did show it to us with the oh, if you wanted to buy a house here, this area is super nice. But we absolutely could not afford something here. But it's nice that they thought we could.
That's a good point, yeah. It's well, no assumptions, we'll show you everything. And then they showed us this giant chair like it was a landmark or something.
Uts.
Uts. But then they said it was a Dutch company that just had that as, I don't know, the thing to draw people in. I have no idea.
Like a tourist trap?
I guess.
Okay. I mean, it's working. I want to go there.
Right. But apparently IKEA used to be there originally, but then they moved to a different area of town 15 years ago. And then on the trail of assuming nothing about us, they took us to a recreational area where there's outdoor gyms and ball courts and a hill for sledding.
Okay, but that sounds fun for me, but maybe not for you.
I don't know. I don't see myself into the ball courts, but the sledding, sure, if it ever snows. Next, they took us to the Värnhem area of town. Värnhem. And we passed by a bus station that was one of the quote-unquote bigger bus stations in town. And I learned that the yellow buses go through the city, but also like 2 different cities. But the green buses stay in Malmö and its suburbs. So I don't know. That was interesting.
Yes. So interesting.
Well, because you look at the buses and you're like, well, why are some yellow? Why are some green?
I know, I'm just kidding.
And now I know. And so in the Värnhem area, there's like this long green space that you can walk through. It's just for pedestrians, I guess, and bicyclists.
Yeah, basically it's like a city park in a way. And it goes all the way from, so this goes from the Entree Mall that we saw before, and then it hits a church, and then it goes to the Gamla, like the old city. But it's just a nice way to like walk between, like, if you're in this part of town to I was gonna say center city, but if you walk to like the old city.
True, I guess that must be a big draw to live in that area, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that sounds cool. And then they took us to the area around St. Paul's Church.
So when I was talking about the church before, this is the church that it hits, and then it goes at an angle towards Gamla. So it's kind of like the halfway point between the Entree Mall and Gamla in a way.
And apparently the area around the church is also, the buildings are really, as old as the church. So the ceilings are higher and they're generally just bigger than newer builds. And then something interesting, when we passed by the cemetery, they told us that Swedish people use cemeteries as, places of grief, but also just a park space. So
yeah, it's like leisure activities. I wouldn't say like park space. People will like promenade, like they'll walk around, and they'll like bring their dogs and stuff, and like sometimes they'll like hang out on the grass, but they're not gonna like play ball or throw a frisbee in there. But it's just another like green space that Swedish people can enjoy.
Right, like people would go running through cemeteries here.
Yeah.
Which I don't know of anyone that's like, yeah, my run goes through a cemetery.
Yeah. I think there's a different stigma that the US has with cemeteries, because like their cemeteries are, I don't know, they're like haunted or sacred or something like that, but then here it's another green space.
The next stop on our tour was the Möllevången area. Malmövangen. All right. One of the most multicultural areas. And they noted here that there's a lot of restaurants of like different kinds of foods.
One of the things that when we were on our like digital look and see, they were saying that this area is actually like the busiest part of town. There are some clubs and stuff like that, but in general, it still is just like...
I wouldn't call it loud, but they called it loud.
Yeah. But it's nice. There are like a lot of restaurants. A lot of it's just kind of like late night food places, but then like there's good burger joints, bakeries, there's a lot of options here.
And then something that is actually really cool is that there's like a produce and flower market in this square here. At least the weekends. This was a weekday and it was there, so I guess weekdays as well.
So what happens here is like, of course, during the winter, the market doesn't happen. When the weather gets warmer, it starts opening up on the weekends, and then when the weather is like actually warm and really nice, they'll actually just be out there during the weekdays as well.
You're the voice of authority and I'm the audience plant. So the audience is like, oh, he knows nothing, just like me. Okay, and this building here is the emergency center. They told us that if we're ever in an ambulance, it's gonna drop us off here. And I don't know, I love this building.
It looks like building blocks.
Yeah, it's so colorful. I think it's nice.
I think it's nice to do something nice for Daisy on her last day. I think it's nice to do something nice.
Right, I think it's nice to go to a nice place when you're injured.
Oh my god.
And then near that hospital is a really big park called Pildammsparken, the biggest park in the city.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like kind of foresty actually, which is kind of unusual for Skåne.
And then our guide showed us their favorite spot, which is called Tallriken. or the plate.
In the middle of like all these trees, they cut out a shape that's like just completely round with like spokes of a wheel. It's so weird. And like the way that they like arborize, what do you call it? The way they like trim the trees, they like made it all straight edges. So it's like kind of surreal looking when you're looking at it from like the edge. I'm sure in the middle it just kind of looks like whatever, but like when you're looking inside from the outside, it looks crazy.
And then we went over to the Hyllie area.
Hyllie.
Hyllie. The first stop was this water tower that's shaped like a flying saucer. And they told us that it's from the 1970s and it's been here back when...
Wild.
Yeah, like back when this area was just agriculture, like just farmland.
That's weird. But then like we actually like were near it the other like a month ago or something. We saw there's like a water education little like park for kids to like see how like water treatment happens. So that's really cool actually.
Mm-hmm. And apparently the train station there finished in 2010, so like everything in that area is less than 15 years old.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a McDonald's there too. I mean, it is still like a very like up and coming area, you can tell. Like everything's like super new, there's still a lot of construction. I mean, the only grocery store really there is inside the mall, so...
Oh.
Which like is normal for a lot of places, but like there's only one. Normally I feel like you would get at least another grocery store. The Emporium Mall is nice. There's a Sephora there. And then there's like regular stores, but then there's also, that's the only Apple store in the whole city of Malmö.
Oh.
There's an Apple store and a Sephora, and that's why I go to that mall. Jensen's Biff House. There's a big hole in the ground.
Yeah, we took a pit stop at this giant limestone quarry.
Oh yeah, and then I told him I had to go to the bathroom.
After the pit stop.
Well, there's no toilets here.
Well, that's true. But yeah, this is the start of the Limhamn area.
Which is like super suburby, super residential. But it's beautiful. So this quarry, it used to be for limestone, but then it ended up turning into a nature preserve. And you actually can't enter this area without a guide, just because it is protected. Which is kind of different from what you see in Sweden with like the whole like, oh, if you like leave the place as you encountered it, then you can just spend the night there, you can camp there or whatever. But here it's restricted because it's protected.
You're so knowledgeable.
Yeah, I know. So this is us trying to find a bathroom and me trying not to pee myself. They ended up finding a public toilet. And when I went in, I was able to go and wash my hands, but they didn't have anything to dry. So then I ended up having to wipe my hands on my pants.
The information you need.
So this building is actually like a fish smoking. This building is a fish smoking building where...
It's just a place where you can buy fish and then you can also eat it. Like you can buy...
Wow, groundbreaking.
flowers for spring. No, yeah, because this is near...
This is like right on the water.
Right, so in that context, it's cool. You know, oh, the fish is just caught.
I mean, I would say this area is actually very interesting. It's up and coming. I think I actually toured an apartment like right behind this building. And like, it's similar to Hyllie, where it's like, there's one grocery store and like an apotheke and then like a couple of restaurants. Like I know there's a good pizza restaurant everyone keeps telling me about. I think the interesting thing here, like the main difference between Hyllie and here is like Hyllie has the train that can take you into the city versus like here, like you have to take a bus or you have to like bike or walk or run, whatever.
Like that guy.
The scooters are everywhere. They have the rental bikes and rental scooters all over this city. One thing too about that area we just passed through is that that's like, since that's new build, it's mostly apartments, but then the rest of Limhamn is all houses. So it's like if you want a house, Limhamn is it, but that one area is just all new builds. It's just up and coming, whatever.
Yeah, it's so strange. Like this area here, like that house was built in 1858. It's just as old as that first area we went into, Kirseberg. And they also called this like a typical Swedish village.
And like the road we're driving on is, I think, parallel to another road that actually like has flags going across the top, or maybe this is even that road, but like they make sure to like keep the historical while still like being able to like update around it or update inside or something like that. I think it's a lot more interesting than what the US does, where I don't know, you just kind of knock it down. I mean, I have friends who are in historical preservation. They definitely try hard, but now we're just talking about historical preservation. I think it's fair though, because like historical preservation in Europe is very different than in the US.
Oh yeah. Our next stop was an area of town that's called Slottstaden, which means Castle City, and then they laughed and told us that there's no castle here, so they don't know why it's called Castle City.
There didn't used to be a castle?
Maybe there used to be, but I don't know.
Like way back then.
These local guides did not know why this area was called that. But this area is apparently popular with new parents and retired people because it's very quiet.
Where are we? Oh, we're near the library.
Yeah, they pointed the library out and
Library?
library and told us how you don't even need like a person number to get a library card.
I mean, good.
True, yeah, and you know it's free.
Yeah.
And then we passed by a place that you keep meaning to take me to, the Salu Hall.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this place is so nice. It's kind of like what's that one place in Philly?
Reading Terminal.
Yeah, it's like Reading Terminal, but newer, smaller.
There's ice cream in here that you keep thinking you've taken me to.
Yeah, there's really great ice cream. There's like poke bowls, which are just whatever, but then there's a place that does Asian food, but it's all white people, but it still is pretty good.
And one day, I'll go. Oh, the next we just talked about how so many areas of the city are just in endless construction. The population's growing really fast, so there's a lot of construction to kind of keep up with that and also simultaneously renovate older areas.
They're expanding, which is really great, but I know they're gonna have buses and things like that, but then like how else are they gonna expand? Like, are they gonna add a light rail? Are they gonna create a metro system? Because this city, like, it's not big now, but like once all of this stuff is like done.
I wonder how it'll be in like 10 years.
I mean, the bus system's really good, so hopefully they'll improve on it and maybe add some other things like a light rail or whatever, because it can't just run on buses. That's not sustainable for, not just about like the environment, but like sustainable for population growth like this. You need to add other types of infrastructure for public transportation.
Then the very last thing they took us to was the most famous building in town, the Turning Torso.
Was that Calatrava?
Wait, where?
Calatrava, the architect who made Turning Torso.
I have no idea.
I have to look up all the facts.
I do know it's the tallest building in Scandinavia because of our guide. And that all the floors are apartments except for the top 2 floors that are conference rooms.
I was correct. It is Santiago Calatrava who designed this skyscraper. I mean, it's obvious now that I say it, but I'm never confident about that stuff. Yeah, it's a beautiful building, but it's like, the thing about like Västra Hamnen is there's nothing there, and you have to take the bus to get anywhere.
And then, interesting side note to that is that it's also the most expensive area of town.
It is very nice though. So that was the end of our tour.
I learned a lot, personally. You still know so much more than me, somehow.
I just know a lot more than you. But in your defense from that, like, I'd already been in the city for a month, and that was like your like 3rd day.
Yeah, literal third day, yeah. Friday, Sunday, and this was Monday, because Saturday was in Copenhagen. But yeah, it helped us get an idea of where we wanted to live, what the areas of town are like, and hopefully you are not moving here probably, but hopefully you learned some things that were fun. But thanks for watching, hope it was fun, and see you next time.
Okay, bye!